poor black woman named Amara stood alone on the side of the street, holding an old guitar and singing in the rain. She didn't know that only a few steps away, a man dressed in a black coat stood silently in the darkness with a pistol resting against his head. Tonight, he had already decided to end his life. His finger slowly tightened around the trigger, but the moment he heard her voice, it stopped. He slowly lowered the gun. He had never seen the woman before, and he didn't even know her name. Somehow, her voice reached the part of his heart that had died long ago. While Amara continued singing, completely unaware that she had just stopped a stranger from ending his life, two street thugs walked toward her. One grabbed her by the collar while the other snatched the guitar from her hands. Amara reached for it and quietly pleaded, "Please don't." The men laughed. One of them raised the guitar above his head and smashed it onto the wet pavement. The guitar shattered into pieces. Amara froze before slowly kneeling on the rain-soaked road, trying to gather the broken pieces with trembling hands. The thugs laughed as one kicked the broken pieces farther away, and the other shoved her onto the wet pavement. People looked for a moment, then walked away. No one stopped. No one helped. Only one man couldn't look away. The stranger watched Amara as she silently tried to collect the broken pieces of her guitar. For a brief moment, the stranger forgot the pistol inside his coat. Only minutes earlier, the stranger had wanted to disappear from the world forever. He had believed there was nothing left to save, nothing left to feel, and nothing left to fight for. But now, watching Amara kneel in the rain while broken wood shook inside her hands, something inside him moved. He remembered his little sister. He remembered how she used to protect small broken things when they were children. A cracked music box, a bird with an injured wing, a doll with one missing eye. She always believed broken things deserved more care, not less. And now this woman, this stranger with a voice full of pain, was kneeling in the rain like the world had finally taken the last thing she loved. One of the thugs reached for Amara again. Before his hand could touch her, someone caught his wrist. The thug turned angrily and found a tall man standing in front of him. The man's face was calm. His eyes were cold. "Let her go," the stranger said. The thug stared at him for a second, then laughed. "Who are you supposed to be?" The stranger did not answer. The thug threw a punch. It never landed. The stranger moved once, fast and clean. He twisted the thug's wrist, struck him hard in the ribs, and slammed him onto the wet road. The second thug pulled a knife and rushed forward, but the stranger stepped aside, caught his arm, and hit him once across the jaw. The second thug collapsed beside his friend. Both men groaned in pain. The stranger looked down at them. "Run." It was only one word, no shouting, no anger, just quiet danger. The thugs scrambled to their feet and disappeared into the darkness. The street became silent again. Only the rain remained. Amara sat on the wet pavement, breathing fast, holding broken pieces of the guitar against her chest. Her eyes slowly lifted toward the stranger. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The stranger bent down, picked up one broken piece of the guitar, and gently placed it in Amara's hands. Amara looked at him in confusion. Most people looked at her like she was invisible. Some looked at her with pity. Some looked at her with judgment. But this man looked at the broken guitar as if it mattered. That small gesture hurt more than the fall. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Amara shook her head. "No." His eyes moved to her palm. Blood ran from a thin cut where the broken wood had sliced her skin. "You are bleeding," he said. Amara quickly hid her hand. "It's nothing." The stranger's voice softened. People always say that when it is not nothing. Amara looked away. She did not know this man. She did not know why he had helped her. She did not know why his eyes looked so empty and so dangerous at the same time. But she knew one thing. He was not like the people who had walked away. Before Amara could speak, a faint camera shutter clicked from the rooftop of a nearby building. The stranger heard it instantly. His face changed. The sadness disappeared. The softness vanished. His eyes became sharp, alert, and deadly. High above the street, a man dressed in dark clothes lowered his camera and pulled out a phone. "Boss located," the man whispered. A cold voice answered. "Is he alone?" The man looked through the camera lens once more. "No, only one woman is with him." A brief silence followed, then the order came. "Move. Eliminate him." The call ended. Seconds later, the sound of speeding engines echoed through the rain. Amara heard it too. She turned and saw several vehicles rushing toward the street. Their headlights cut through the darkness like knives. At the same moment, another convoy arrived from the opposite direction. Black SUVs stopped hard near the curb. More than a dozen armed security men jumped out. The first man who stepped out was Security Chief Han. The moment Han saw the stranger standing beside Amara, his face changed. "Protect the boss!" Han shouted. Gunfire exploded. Amara screamed and covered her ears. Bullets struck the street, the walls, and the black SUV behind them. Glass shattered. Sparks flew from metal. Rainwater jumped from the pavement as bullets tore through it. Amara stood frozen in fear. One attacker aimed his weapon directly at her. The stranger saw it instantly. He rushed toward Amara, grabbed her by the waist, and pulled her behind the nearest black SUV. A burst of bullets struck the vehicle above them. He stood in front of her, shielding her with his own body. Amara looked at him in complete shock. Only minutes earlier, this man had been ready to end his own life. Now he was risking that same life to save hers. "Stay down," he said. Amara nodded, trembling. Security Chief Han and his team fired back. The attackers realized they had lost the advantage. One vehicle reversed violently into the rain. Another sped away. Within minutes, the street became quiet again, except for the sound of rain, smoke, and distant engines disappearing into the night. Han checked every direction, then hurried toward the stranger. "Sir, we have to leave now." The stranger looked at Amara. She was still behind the SUV, soaked, shaking, and holding pieces of her broken guitar. Han's eyes moved to her. "Sir, she cannot stay here." Amara looked up. "What?" Han lowered his voice. "They saw you standing beside the boss. Even if they do not know your name yet, they will check cameras, witnesses, and nearby shops. Once they find you, they will come for you." Amara shook her head. "No, there has to be a mistake. I do not know any of you. I was just singing." Han's expression became serious. "People like our enemies do not care whether someone is innocent. They only care about removing every possible witness." Amara looked down at the broken guitar. Only an hour earlier, her biggest problem had been earning enough money for food. Now she could not even go back to the small apartment she called home. After a long silence, Amara looked at the stranger. "Who are you?" He remained quiet for a few seconds. Then he answered, "Someone who owes you his life." Amara stared at him. "I did not save anyone." He shook his head. "You did. If I had not heard your voice tonight, I would not be standing here." Amara had spent years believing her voice meant nothing to anyone. People passed her by. Some gave coins, some gave insults, most gave nothing. Now this stranger was telling her that her voice had saved his life. Han interrupted gently. "Sir, more attackers may come." The stranger nodded, then looked back at Amara. "You cannot stay here. Come with us until the danger passes." Amara immediately stepped back. "No. I do not know you. I do not know these men. I do not know where you are taking me." "I know," he said. "Then why should I trust you?" The stranger looked at the broken guitar in her hands. "I know you have no reason to trust me, but if you walk away tonight, I may not get another chance to protect you." Those words stayed with her. Amara looked at the empty street. Then she looked at the broken guitar. Then she looked at the man who had twice risked his life for hers. For the first time in years, someone had looked at her without pity, without judgment, and without expecting anything in return. Slowly, Amara nodded. The stranger gently took the damaged guitar case from her hands and placed it inside the black SUV as carefully as if it were something priceless. Amara noticed. He was not protecting her because he felt sorry for her. He was protecting everything that mattered to her. Without another word, Amara stepped inside the vehicle. A few seconds later, the stranger sat across from her. The convoy pulled away from the rain-soaked street. Neither of them spoke during the journey. Amara looked out the window, watching city lights disappear behind rain, wondering if she would ever see her old life again. Across from her, the stranger quietly watched the broken guitar case beside her. For the first time since losing his sister, he wanted tomorrow to come. Nearly an hour later, the convoy passed through massive steel gates and entered a private estate hidden far from the city. Amara looked through the window in disbelief. Armed security stood at every entrance. Cameras covered every corner. Every vehicle was inspected before moving forward. This was not a house, it was a fortress. The SUVs stopped in front of a modern building surrounded by silent guards. Before Amara could open the door, the stranger stepped out first and quietly opened it for her. She hesitated before accepting his hand. It was a small gesture, but after everything that had happened that night, it made her feel strangely safe. The moment the stranger entered the building, every conversation stopped. Dozens of men and women immediately stood and lowered their heads. No one spoke until he walked past them. Amara slowly turned toward him. "Who are you?" Before he could answer, Security Chief Han stepped forward. "His name is Kang Min-jae," Han said, "but everyone here knows him as the Mafia boss. Everything you see here belongs to him, and everyone in this building answers to him." Amara looked at Min-jae again. He did not look proud. He did not look pleased. He simply looked tired. Han guided Amara into a private sitting room where warm tea, dry towels, and clean clothes had already been prepared. Amara sat carefully on the sofa, afraid to touch anything. The room was larger than her entire apartment. The carpet looked expensive. The windows overlooked dark gardens. A fireplace burned quietly near the wall. A few minutes later, an employee entered with a long wrapped case. He placed it on the table and quietly left. Amara looked at it. Min-jae nodded. "Open it." Slowly, Amara unwrapped the case. Inside was a brand new acoustic guitar. Amara froze. The wood was polished. The strings were perfect. The inside smelled new and expensive. She immediately shook her head. "I cannot accept this." Min-jae looked at the broken guitar case beside her. "I know it cannot replace the old one," he said softly. "I only do not want you to stop singing." Amara gently ran her fingers across the strings. A small sound filled the room. For the first time that night, a small smile appeared on her face. Min-jae noticed it for only 1 second before quietly looking away. It had been a long time since he had seen someone smile because of something he had done. The silence was broken when Han entered the room, carrying a folder. His expression had become serious. "We reviewed the nearby street cameras," Han said. "The attackers were watching the boss before they moved. We do not know how much they recorded, but until we find out, it is not safe for Miss Amara to return home." Amara lowered her eyes. Only a few hours earlier, her biggest worry had been earning enough money for another day. Now she could not even return to the small apartment where she had spent years surviving alone. Seeing fear on her face, Min-jae quietly spoke. "You will stay here until it is safe." Amara looked at him. "Why are you doing all this for me?" He remained silent for a moment. Then he answered, "Because you gave me something I thought I had lost forever." "What was that?" Min-jae slowly looked out the window. "A reason to see tomorrow." Amara did not know how to answer. She simply held the new guitar close to her heart deep inside. She realized the man everyone feared was not asking for anything in return. He was simply trying to protect the woman whose voice had unknowingly saved his life. Neither of them realized that this was the moment their lives truly became connected, not by fate alone, but by a promise neither of them had spoken aloud. The next morning, Amara woke up in a room unlike anything she had ever seen before. For a few moments, she sat on the edge of the bed, trying to understand how one rainy night had completely changed her life. The sound of birds outside replaced the sound of gunfire she still remembered. She quietly walked out of the room and wandered through the peaceful residence until she reached a balcony overlooking the gardens. Min-jae was already standing there, holding a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He stared into the distance, lost in thought. Amara slowly walked over and stood beside him. Neither of them spoke for a while. Finally, Amara broke the silence. "Who are these people? Why do they want to kill you?" Min-jae did not answer immediately. He kept looking at the city beyond the walls before taking a slow breath. "Because years ago, I made an enemy who never stopped chasing me." Amara quietly waited. "His name is Black Wolf." The moment Min-jae spoke that name, the sadness in his eyes became impossible to hide. "My younger sister was the only family I had left," he said. "She always believed I could leave this life one day. She kept asking me to stop fighting and start living." He smiled sadly before looking down at his hands. "One night, Black Wolf used her to lure me into a trap. When I finally reached her, she was lying on the ground." His voice became heavier. She had been stabbed. Amara's breath caught. Min-jae closed his eyes for a moment. "I held her in my arms and begged her to stay with me, but I was too late. She died before I could save her." The balcony fell completely silent. "That moment never left me," he whispered. "Every single day I blamed myself because I was not there when she needed me most." He slowly looked toward Amara. "The night I met you in the rain, I was not searching for revenge anymore. I was not searching for hope either. I had already decided to end my life because I could not carry that guilt any longer." Tears filled Amara's eyes. Without saying a word, she gently reached for his hand. It was the first time anyone had touched him with simple kindness instead of fear. "You could not save your sister," Amara said softly, "but that does not mean you failed her. Sometimes we lose people no matter how hard we fight." Min-jae lowered his eyes. No one had ever said those words to him before. For years, everyone around him had told him to be strong, to take revenge, or to keep moving forward. No one had ever tried to heal the wound inside him. They stood there in silence as the morning breeze passed between them. Neither of them noticed that little by little, two broken hearts were beginning to understand each other in a way words never could. The rest of the day passed quietly, but neither Amara nor Min-jae could stop thinking about the conversation on the balcony. For the first time, Amara understood the pain he had been carrying for years. She no longer saw him only as a feared Mafia boss. She saw a man who had lost his only family and had been blaming himself ever since. Min-jae also began noticing things he had ignored for years. The sound of birds near the garden, the warmth of sunlight through the window, the quiet way Amara thanked every servant who brought her anything, the way she held the new guitar with gratitude, but still kept the broken one beside her bed. That broken guitar confused him. That evening, he found Amara sitting alone in the garden. The new guitar rested beside her, but the broken guitar pieces were spread carefully on a cloth in front of her. Min-jae stopped near the pathway. "Why keep it?" he asked. Amara looked up. For a moment, she seemed embarrassed. Then she touched one cracked piece of wood. "My father gave it to me," she said. "He was not rich. He worked 3 jobs most of his life. He bought this guitar from a pawn shop when I was 15. Min-jae slowly sat across from her. Amara continued. "He told me, if the world does not listen to you, sing anyway. Your voice is still yours." Her smile faded. He died 2 years later. Min-jae looked at the broken pieces again. Now he understood. It was not just a guitar. It was memory. It was family. It was the last piece of a man who had loved her before the world became cold. "I am sorry," Min-jae said. Amara shook her head. "People say that when they do not know what else to say." Min-jae looked at her. Amara gave a small, sad smile. "But with you, I think you mean it." Min-jae lowered his eyes. "I do." The garden became quiet for the first time. Min-jae was not the only one with a ghost. Amara had hers too. That night, Min-jae ordered his staff to send the broken guitar to the best repair expert they could find. Han looked surprised. "Sir, the guitar is destroyed." Min-jae looked at him. "Then find someone who knows how to repair destroyed things." Han lowered his head. "Yes, sir." The next day, Amara noticed the broken guitar was gone. Panic filled her face. She rushed into the hallway. "Where is it?" Min-jae turned from the window. "What? My guitar?" "The broken one. It is gone." Min-jae walked toward her. "I sent it to be repaired." Amara froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. He spoke carefully. "I should have asked first." Amara stared at him. For a moment, Min-jae thought she was angry. Then tears filled her eyes. "No one has ever tried to fix something for me before," she whispered. Min-jae's chest tightened. He wanted to say something, but no words felt right, so he only said, "Then it should have happened sooner." Amara looked at him for a long moment. Something passed between them, something quiet, something dangerous, something soft. But before either of them could understand it, Han hurried toward them carrying a confidential folder. One look at Han's face was enough for Min-jae to know something important had happened. Han opened the folder and placed surveillance photographs on the table. "Sir," Han said, "we found Black Wolf's headquarters. We confirmed the location. If we do not move now, he may disappear again." The room turned cold. Amara looked at the photographs before turning toward Min-jae. She finally understood what was about to happen. Tomorrow was not just another day. It would decide whether this nightmare ended forever, or whether she would lose the man she had only just begun to know. Min-jae slowly closed the folder and looked at Han. "Call everyone," he said. "We move before sunrise." Han walked away to prepare the operation. Amara remained standing in silence. She wanted to ask Min-jae not to go, but she knew he had been waiting for this moment since the night his sister died. Outside, black SUVs slowly entered the headquarters one after another as armed guards prepared for the mission ahead. Inside, Amara quietly watched Min-jae standing by the window. For the first time, she realized she was not afraid of Black Wolf anymore. She was afraid of losing Min-jae. That night, Amara could not sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed with the new guitar resting beside her. Her fingers touched the strings, but no song came out. Every note felt like goodbye. Near midnight, there was a soft knock on the door. Amara opened it. Min-jae stood outside, no black coat, no weapon in his hand. Only a tired man who looked like he had survived too many battles and lost too much of himself. "I wanted to make sure you were safe," he said. Amara smiled sadly. "You keep saying that because it matters." "And what about you?" she asked. "Who makes sure you are safe?" Min-jae did not answer. Amara stepped aside and let him in. He looked at the guitar. "You are not singing tonight." "I cannot." "Why?" Amara looked at him. "Because I do not know if tomorrow will take you away." The room became silent. Min-jae looked at her like her words had touched something deep. "Amara," she shook her head. "Do not say my name like that unless you plan to come back alive." For the first time, the Mafia boss looked helpless. Amara stepped closer. "I do not need your money," she whispered. "I do not need your power. I do not need this estate or guards or anything from your world. I just need you to survive tomorrow." Min-jae closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was low. "I do not know how to promise that." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "Then promise me something else." "What?" "If you survive tomorrow, leave this life behind." Min-jae stared at her. "The guns," she said. "The blood, the revenge, the Mafia, all of it. You said my voice gave you a reason to see tomorrow. Then let tomorrow mean something." For a long time, he said nothing. Then he slowly took the pistol from his coat and placed it on the table between them. "This weapon gave me power," he said quietly. But it also took everything from me. He looked into Amara's eyes. If I survive tomorrow, I will walk away. Amara's breath trembled. No more Mafia, no more Mafia, no more wars, no more wars, no more blood? Min-jae looked at the pistol one final time. No more blood. Amara stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. For the first time, Min-jae did not hesitate. He held her, not like a boss, not like a man surrounded by enemies, but like someone who had finally found a home in another person's arms. Outside the door, Security Chief Han quietly stopped in the hallway. He had come to report that the convoy would be ready before sunrise. But when he saw them through the slightly open door, he did not interrupt. A small, sad smile appeared on his face. The boss had finally found something greater than revenge. A reason to live. Before sunrise, the entire headquarters was already awake. Black SUVs lined up outside while armed guards checked their weapons one last time. No one smiled because everyone knew some of them would never return. Inside the operations room, Security Chief Han pointed at the final map. This is Black Wolf's fortress. More than 60 armed men, snipers on every rooftop. One entrance, 2 underground escape routes. He looked at Min-jae and quietly added, "This ends today." Min-jae nodded. "It has to." Han gave a short command. "Move out in 15 minutes. The room slowly emptied until only Min-jae remained behind. He stood in front of the glass wall, silently looking over the city. Today, he would either end the war or die trying. A soft knock came from behind. It was Amara. She walked into the room and looked at the tactical map, then at the black suit Min-jae was wearing. "So this is it," she whispered. Min-jae gave a small nod. "This is the last battle." Silence filled the room. Amara slowly walked toward him. Her eyes were filled with fear, not for herself, but for him. "Remember your promise," she said. Min-jae looked at her. "I remember. When you come back, we leave together." "When I come back," he said, "we leave together." Amara touched his face. "Then come back to me." Min-jae gently kissed her forehead. For a moment, the war outside disappeared. There was no Black Wolf, no revenge, no blood. Only Amara and the man her voice had pulled back from the edge. Han knocked gently. "Sir, the convoy is ready." Min-jae slowly let go of Amara and wiped away the tears from her cheek. "When I come back, we will leave together." Amara nodded. "I will be waiting." Min-jae picked up his pistol one final time, not for revenge, but to end the nightmare forever. A few moments later, the iron gates opened. The convoy of black SUVs rolled out one after another. Amara stood on the front steps, watching until the last vehicle disappeared beyond the horizon. She quietly whispered, "Come back to me, because this time, you finally have a home waiting for you." Far ahead, the convoy disappeared into the rising morning sun. The final war had begun. The black SUVs moved through the sleeping city like shadows. The sun had not fully risen yet. The streets were quiet. A thin line of orange light waited behind the tall buildings, but the morning still belonged to darkness. Inside the lead SUV, Kang Min-jae sat in silence. His black suit was perfect, but his mind was not. Security Chief Han sat beside him with a tablet in his hand. Han kept checking the live map, the security feed, and the position of every team. "First unit will block the south exit," Han said quietly. Min-jae did not respond. "Second unit will move through the warehouse side." Still silence. "Snipers will take position only after your signal." Min-jae looked through the front windshield. His body was inside the SUV, but his heart was still standing at the estate gate, where Amara had watched him leave with tears in her eyes. "Come back to me, because this time you finally have a home waiting for you." Those words would not leave him. For years, Min-jae had gone into battles with nothing to lose. That made him dangerous. A man with no future could walk into death without fear. But today was different. Today, Min-jae had something waiting for him. A woman, a promise, a song, a life beyond blood. That made him stronger. And for the first time, it also made him afraid. Han noticed the change in his face. "Sir," Han said carefully, "if anything goes wrong, the team can pull you out." Min-jae looked at him. "No." Han lowered his eyes. "I expected that answer." "This ends today," Min-jae said. Han nodded. "Then let me say something before we arrive." Min-jae waited. Han's voice became softer. "Your sister would not have wanted you to die for revenge." For a moment, the SUV became too quiet. Min-jae looked out the window. "I know." Han turned toward him, surprised. Min-jae continued, "That is why I am not going there for revenge." Han studied his face. "Then why?" Min-jae thought of Amara kneeling in the rain, holding broken pieces of her guitar. He thought of the thugs laughing while people walked away. He thought of Black Wolf sending bullets toward an innocent woman simply because she had stood beside him. "I am going so no one else has to be destroyed by him." Han stared at Min-jae. For the first time in years, Min-jae sounded different. Not colder, not angrier, cleaner, like the war inside him had already begun to end. 30 minutes later, the convoy stopped 2 blocks away from an abandoned industrial zone outside the city. Black Wolf Wolf's fortress sat at the center of the area. From outside, it looked like an old factory. Rusted gates, broken windows, empty loading docks, faded warning signs. But Han's intelligence had revealed the truth. Behind those walls were armed men, hidden cameras, weapons storage, underground escape tunnels, and Black Wolf himself. The man who had killed Min Jae's sister. The man who had hunted Min Jae for years. The man who now knew about Amara. Han gave silent hand signals. Men moved into position. The sky was still dark. A thin orange line waited at the edge of the horizon, but the sun had not risen yet. Min Jae stepped out of the SUV. Cold air touched his face. He adjusted his black coat and looked at the factory. For 7 years, Min Jae had imagined this moment. He had imagined rage. He had imagined satisfaction. He had imagined Black Wolf begging before him. But now, standing there, Min Jae felt something else. He felt tired. Tired of graves. Tired of blood. Tired of being a man everyone feared but no one truly knew. Then Amara's voice returned in his memory. Let tomorrow mean something. Min Jae lifted one hand. Han raised his radio. Move. The first explosion hit the factory's side gate. Metal tore open. Smoke filled the loading area. Min Jae's men moved fast, silent, and precise. Black Wolf's guards opened fire from the upper windows. Bullets cut through the smoke. One of Han's men fell. Another dragged him behind cover. Min Jae did not flinch. He moved forward through the chaos, firing only when necessary. Every step was controlled. Every order was short. Left side. Cover Han. Check the roof. Block the tunnels. Black Wolf's men had expected rage. They had expected Min Jae to rush blindly into revenge. They had not expected discipline. They had not expected patience. They had not expected a man who no longer wanted death but still knew how to command it. Inside the factory, lights flickered above broken machines and concrete pillars. Gunfire echoed through the empty space. Han moved beside Min Jae. Black Wolf is heading underground. Min Jae's eyes hardened. Where? North Tunnel. Min Jae turned immediately. 2 guards stepped into his path. He disarmed the first before the man could aim. The second swung a blade. Min Jae caught his wrist, struck his jaw, and sent him crashing into a metal crate. Han fired past him, dropping another attacker near the stairs. They reached the north corridor. At the end of it, a heavy steel door stood open. Below it, stairs led underground. Min Jae paused. The air coming from below smelled damp and metallic. Han looked at him. Sir, let the team clear it first. Min Jae shook his head. He is mine. Han's jaw tightened. Your sister died because he made you walk into a trap alone. Min Jae looked at him. That truth hit the air hard. Han stepped closer. Do not let him use the same wound twice. For a long moment, Min Jae said nothing. Then he nodded once. Fine, you come with me. Han almost smiled. Always. They descended the stairs together. Below the factory, the tunnel opened into a concrete chamber lit by weak yellow bulbs. At the center of the room stood Black Wolf. He wore a dark suit untouched by the battle above. His hair was silver at the sides. His smile was calm, almost amused. 2 guards stood behind him. Black Wolf slowly clapped. Kang Min Jae, Black Wolf said. The king finally walks into my basement. Min Jae stared at him. Black Wolf smiled wider. I expected more emotion. After all, I gave you 7 years of purpose. Han's finger tightened on his weapon. Min Jae did not move. Black Wolf tilted his head. Did you enjoy chasing my shadow? Did revenge keep you warm at night? Min Jae's voice stayed calm. Your men are finished. Black Wolf smiled. Men can be replaced. Your exits are blocked. Exits can be made. Min Jae steps forward. Not today. Black Wolf studied Min Jae's face. Then his expression changed slightly. You are different. Min Jae said nothing. Black Wolf smiled again. Ah, the woman. Han glanced at Min Jae. Min Jae's eyes became colder. Black Wolf noticed and laughed softly. So it is true. The great Mafia boss found a street singer in the rain. Min Jae did not answer. Black Wolf continued. Tell me, did she sing for you? Did she make you believe you were still human? Silence filled the chamber. That is dangerous. Hope makes men weak. Min Jae finally spoke. No, hope gives a man something to protect. Black Wolf's smile disappeared. For the first time, anger crossed his face. I took your sister, Black Wolf said quietly. I can take this woman too. The room changed. Han raised his gun higher. Min Jae did not shout. He did not rush. He only looked at Black Wolf with a stillness more terrifying than rage. You will never speak about her again. Black Wolf lifted his hand. The 2 guards behind him moved. Gunfire erupted. Han shot the first guard. The second guard fired toward Min Jae. Concrete exploded near his shoulder. He returned fire, hitting the guard in the leg, then disarming him as the guard fell forward. Black Wolf ran toward the side tunnel. Min Jae chased him. The tunnel twisted sharply left, then right. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Water dripped onto the floor. Their footsteps echoed through the narrow space. Black Wolf reached a smaller chamber and grabbed a hidden pistol from beneath a metal table. He turned and fired. The bullet grazed Min Jae's arm. Min Jae staggered but did not fall. Black Wolf smiled, still bleeding like everyone else. Min Jae pressed one hand against the wound. Blood ran through his fingers. Black Wolf circled him slowly. Your sister begged, you know. Min Jae's eyes lifted. Black Wolf's voice became poisonous. Not for her life. For yours. She begged me not to kill you. Even at the end, she thought you were worth saving. Min Jae's breathing changed. Black Wolf saw it and pressed harder. And what did you do with the life she begged for? You built an empire of graves. The words hit deeper than the bullet. Min Jae saw his sister's face, her blood on his hands, her final breath. Then he saw Amara, her hand reaching for his on the balcony, her voice saying, "You could not save your sister, but that does not mean you failed her." Black Wolf fired again. Min Jae moved. The bullet hit the wall. Min Jae stepped forward, fast and controlled. He struck Black Wolf's wrist. The pistol fell. Black Wolf swung a knife from his sleeve, cutting Min Jae across the side. Min Jae grunted. They crashed into the metal table. Black Wolf fought dirty, wild, desperate. Min Jae fought like a man who had spent years turning pain into precision. One strike. Another. Black Wolf stumbled. Min Jae grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. For the first time, Black Wolf looked afraid. Min Jae pressed the pistol under Black Wolf's chin. Black Wolf breathed hard. "Do it," Black Wolf whispered. "Become what I made you." Min Jae stared at him. Above them, gunfire faded. The battle was ending. Min Jae's hand tightened around the pistol. For 7 years, she had dreamed of this moment. One pull of the trigger, one body on the floor, one revenge complete. But then Amara's voice filled his memory again. "If you survive tomorrow, leave this life behind." Min Jae looked at Black Wolf and suddenly understood something. Killing Black Wolf in rage would not free him. It would only prove Black Wolf had owned him until the end. Min Jae lowered the pistol. Black Wolf blinked in shock. "You do not get my soul too," Min Jae said. Black Wolf's face twisted with hate. He reached for a hidden blade near his ankle. Han entered and saw the movement. "Sir!" Black Wolf lunged. Min Jae turned and fired once. The shot echoed through the chamber. Black Wolf fell back onto the concrete. The blade slipped from his hand. For a long moment, no one moved. Black Wolf stared up at the ceiling, breathing in broken pieces. Han walked slowly to Min Jae's side. "Sir." Min Jae closed his eyes. There was no joy, no victory, no celebration inside his chest, only silence, and beneath it, peace. The kind of peace that comes when a nightmare finally runs out of breath. "Check the wounded," Min Jae said. Han nodded. As they walked back through the factory, Min Jae saw the cost of the war. Several of his men were injured. A few had lost their lives. One young guard sat against a wall, pressing a cloth to his shoulder, crying silently. Min Jae stopped beside him. The guard tried to stand. "Sir." Min Jae placed a hand on his shoulder. "Stay down." The guard stared at him, surprised. Min Jae looked across the factory at the men who had followed him into blood for years. "They did not die for an empire," Min Jae said quietly. "They died so this war could finally end." Han lowered his head. "Yes, sir." Min Jae looked at the rising sunlight through the broken factory windows. For the first time, morning did not feel like punishment. It felt like a door. Back at the estate, Amara had not moved from the front steps. Hours had passed. The sun had risen. Servants had asked her to come inside. She refused. She held the new guitar against her chest and watched the road beyond the gates. Every engine sound made her stand. Every silence made her heart drop. She tried to pray, but the words would not come, so she sang, softly, the same melody she had sung in the rain. But this time, the song trembled with fear. The first SUV appeared at the gate. Amara stood. Then another SUV entered. Then another. Her eyes searched every window. The first vehicle stopped. Han stepped out. Blood stained his sleeve. Amara ran toward him. "Where is he?" Han turned. The second SUV door opened. Min Jae stepped out slowly. His suit was torn. Dust and blood covered him. A bandage was wrapped around his arm. But he was alive. Amara ran. She did not care who was watching. She did not care about guards, rules, power, or silence. She ran straight into his arms. Min Jae caught her and held her tightly. "I thought I lost you," Amara whispered. His voice was soft against her hair. "I came back." Amara pulled away just enough to look at him. Her hands trembled as she touched the blood on his coat. "You promised me." Min Jae gave a tired smile. "I remember that evening every senior member of the organization gathered inside the main hall. Everyone believed Min Jae had called them to celebrate victory. Black Wolf was dead. The war was over. Their empire had survived. Men stood proudly. Some whispered about expansion. Others spoke about taking over Black Wolf's territory. Han stood near the front, silent. Han knew something had changed. Amara stood at the back of the hall in a simple black dress. She did not belong to that world, but every eye in the room had already understood one thing. The boss had returned because of her. Min Jae walked to the front. The hall fell silent. He placed his pistol on the table. Then he slowly removed the ring that symbolized his authority. Confusion moved through the room. Han looked at him. "Sir!" Min Jae looked around at every person present. "My revenge is over," Min Jae said. "So is this life." No one moved. No one spoke. Min Jae continued. "From today, this organization ends." A wave of shock hit the room. One senior member stood. "Sir, forgive me, but this empire belongs to you." Min Jae looked at him. "No," he said quietly. "It owned me." The man fell silent. Min Jae continued. "Every illegal operation will be shut down. Every Every business that can become legal will continue. Everything else disappears forever. Another man spoke. And what happens to us? Min-jae looked at Han. Han will help everyone start over. No one who wants a clean life will be abandoned. Han's eyes filled with tears. For years, Han had followed Min-jae through war. Han had watched the boss lose sleep, lose warmth, and lose himself. Now Han was watching him choose life. Han lowered his head. I understand. Min-jae looked at the room again. Some of you followed me because you feared me. Some followed me because you were loyal. Some followed me because this world gave you nowhere else to go. His voice became heavier. I cannot erase what we have done, but I can stop asking more people to bleed for my pain. The hall stayed silent. Min-jae picked up the pistol one last time. Everyone watched. Then he unloaded it, placed the bullets on the table, and pushed the weapon away. I am taking my life back. Amara's eyes filled with tears. The man who had stood in the rain with a pistol against his head was gone. In his place stood a man finally choosing tomorrow. 3 days later, the estate began to change. Weapons were removed from hidden rooms. Illegal accounts were closed. Men who had once carried guns now sat with lawyers, accountants, and relocation officers. Some resisted, some left. Some cried quietly because they had never imagined they were allowed to become anything else. Han worked day and night. Min-jae signed documents until his hand cramped. Amara stayed near him. She did not interfere. She did not control. She simply reminded him with her presence that the promise mattered. One evening, Amara found him alone in his old office. The room was almost empty now. The wall where weapons had once been displayed was bare. Boxes filled the floor. Min-jae stood by the window, looking out at the estate. Amara stepped inside. Do you regret it? She asked. He turned. Not even a little. Min-jae looked around the room. For years I thought this place made me powerful. And now it looks like a prison with expensive windows. Amara smiled softly. Min-jae walked toward her. I do not know how to live normally, he admitted. Amara looked up at him. Then we learn. We? She took his hand. We. For the first time, the word did not scare him. A few weeks later, the repaired guitar returned. Han personally brought the case into the sitting room. Amara saw the case and froze. Min-jae stood beside her, watching quietly. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was the old guitar. Not perfect, not new, not untouched. The cracks were still visible, but they had been carefully sealed. The broken wood had been polished. The strings had been replaced. Every damaged part had been handled with patience. Amara slowly touched it. Her lips trembled. It still has the marks, she whispered. Min-jae nodded. I told them not to hide the scars. Amara looked at him. Why? Min-jae's eyes softened. Because something does not have to look untouched to be worth saving. Amara could not hold back her tears. She picked up the guitar and held it against her chest. For the first time since that rainy night, she played her father's guitar again. The first note was shaky. The second was stronger. By the third, her voice joined the sound. Min-jae stood in silence and listened. This time, the song did not sound like pain. It sounded like survival. 3 months later, in a quiet coastal town far away from Korea, there were no armed guards, no black SUVs, no bodyguards, no fear, only the peaceful sound of waves touching the shore. A small cafe stood near the beach. The sign above the door was simple. Tomorrow Cafe. Inside, a familiar man poured coffee into 2 cups. He wore no expensive suit. He carried no weapon. He held no title. He was simply Min-jae. The cafe was not large, but sunlight filled it every morning. Wooden tables stood near wide windows. Seashells decorated the counter. A small stage sat in the corner with 1 chair, 1 microphone, and 1 guitar stand. The people in town knew him as the quiet man who made strong coffee and listened more than he spoke. No one knew he had once ruled a world of fear. No one needed to know. The cafe door opened. Amara walked inside, carrying her repaired guitar. She wore a yellow dress, her curls loose around her shoulders, and a smile that no longer looked like survival. I have been looking for you everywhere, Amara said. Min-jae smiled. I am exactly where I promised I would be. Amara walked closer. You kept your promise. He looked at her guitar. You saved my life the night we met. I only kept the life you gave me. Amara placed the guitar near the small stage. The first song I ever sang for you stopped you from dying, she said. Today, I want to sing against the counter. What kind of song? A song for our new life. She sat on the chair and began to play. The first notes filled the cafe. This time, there was no pain in her voice, no loneliness, no fear, only hope. Min-jae listened just as he had on that rainy night. But this time he was not standing in the darkness with a gun in his hand. He was standing in sunlight, holding 2 cups of coffee, watching the woman who had taught him how to live again. A little girl from town peeked through the open door with her mother. Amara smiled and kept singing. Soon more people stopped outside. An old fisherman, a woman with flowers, 2 teenagers with bicycles. The song drifted into the street and mixed with the sound of waves. Min-jae watched them gather. Once crowds had lowered their eyes out of fear. Now people stopped because they felt peace. When the song ended, the cafe remained silent for a few seconds. Then everyone clapped. Amara laughed softly, surprised. Min-jae walked to her and gently kissed her forehead. "That rainy night," Min-jae whispered, "I thought my story was over." Amara looked into his eyes. "And now?" He smiled warmly. "Now I know it was only the beginning." Later that evening, after the cafe closed, Amara and Min-jae walked along the beach hand in hand. The sky burned gold above the ocean. Waves touched their feet and disappeared. Amara leaned her head against his shoulder. "Do you ever think about the old life?" she asked. Min-jae looked at the water. "Sometimes. Does it still hurt?" "Yes, but it does not own me anymore." Tighter. They walked in silence for a while. Then Min-jae stopped. Amara looked at him. "What is it?" He reached into his pocket and took out a small velvet box. Amara froze. "Min-jae," he opened the box. Inside was a simple ring, not too large, not too expensive, beautiful because it was chosen with love, not power. "I spent years thinking love was something this life had taken from me forever," he said. "Then one rainy night, a woman with a broken guitar sang me back to life." Tears filled Amara's eyes. Min-jae lowered himself to one knee in the sand. "I do not have an empire anymore. I do not have a title. I do not have anything the world used to fear." He looked up at her. "But I have a life, and I want to spend it with you." Amara covered her mouth, crying. "Will you marry me?" For a moment she could not speak. Then she nodded. "Yes." Min-jae slipped the ring onto her finger. Amara pulled him up and hugged him tightly. Behind them, the sun slowly disappeared into the ocean. For the first time in his life, Min-jae did not fear darkness, because he knew morning would come. 1 year later, Tomorrow Cafe had become the heart of the coastal town. People came for coffee, music, and the quiet warmth that lived inside the walls. Amara sang every weekend. Min-jae learned how to smile without sadness hiding behind it. Han visited sometimes, wearing simple clothes instead of a security uniform. He had helped many former members start legal lives. Some opened shops, some drove delivery trucks, some moved far away and never looked back. One afternoon, Han stood in the cafe doorway and watched Min-jae wipe tables while Amara tuned her guitar. Han shook his head with a smile. "I never thought I would see the day," Han said. Min-jae looked up. "What day?" "The day the most feared Mafia boss in Korea argued with a coffee machine and lost." Amara laughed. Min-jae gave Han a serious look. "The machine is poorly designed." Han laughed harder. For a moment, they were not survivors of war. They were simply people learning how to live. That night, after everyone left, Amara found Min-jae standing outside beneath the stars. He was looking at the ocean. She walked. "Are quiet," she said. "I was thinking about my sister." Amara's smile softened. "Tell me." Min-jae took a slow breath. "She used to say that one day I would find a place where no one knew my name." Amara looked at the cafe. She was right. Min-jae nodded. "I think she would have liked you," he said. Amara leaned against him. "I think I would have loved her." His eyes filled with quiet tears. Amara did not ask him to hide them. She simply held his hand. Above them, the stars shone over the small cafe, over the beach, and over the peaceful life that had once seemed impossible. Min-jae looked at Amara. "Thank you for what?" "For not walking away that night." Amara smiled sadly. "I almost did. I know. And you?" He looked toward the dark water. "I almost ended everything." Amara held his face gently and made him look at her. "But you did not." "No," he whispered, "because I heard you." Amara kissed his hand. "And I stayed because you saw me." The truth settled between them. That was what had saved them both. Not power, not money, not revenge. Two broken people had seen each other when the world looked away, and that had been enough to begin again. Years later, people in that coastal town would still talk about the couple who owned Tomorrow Cafe. They would talk about the beautiful black woman who sang like her heart had survived a storm. They would talk about the quiet Korean man who watched her like every song was a miracle. They would never know the full story. They would never know about the rainy street, the pistol, the broken guitar, the gunfire, the war, or the empire left behind. And that was exactly how Amara and Min-jae wanted it, because some stories do not need the world to know them. Some stories only need two people to remember. One night after closing, Amara picked up her guitar and began the first song she had ever sung for him. Min-jae looked up from the counter. The melody was softer now, less broken, more peaceful. He walked toward her and sat nearby. Amara smiled. "You remember this one?" Min-jae nodded. "It is the song that saved my life." She continued playing. Outside, rain began to fall gently against the cafe windows. Not a storm, not a nightmare, just rain. Min-jae looked at it for a long moment. Then he looked back at Amara. Once, rain had been the sound of endings. Now it sounded like home. Amara finished the song and placed the guitar aside. Min-jae took her hand. Together, they turned off the cafe lights and stepped outside. The rain touched their faces as they walked toward the ocean. Hand in hand, no guards behind them, no enemies chasing them, no blood waiting in the dark, only waves, only rain, only tomorrow. And for the man who had once believed his story was over, tomorrow was the greatest miracle of all.